our mission to the Sun, the end of an era for a prolific planet hunter, and our next mission to Mars is closing in on its destination. A few of the stories to tell you about this week at NASA. Our Parker Solar Probe is the new record holder for closest approach to the Sun by a human-made object. According to calculations by the Parker Solar Probe team, on October 29th, the spacecraft passed the current record of 26.55 million miles from the Sun's surface set by the Helios 2 spacecraft in April 1976. When it makes its final closest approach in 2024, Parker Solar Probe is expected to be just 3.8 million miles from the Sun's surface. After 9 years in deep space, we are ending the science operations of our Kepler Space Telescope. Data collected by Kepler have helped us discover there are more planets than stars in our galaxy. The telescope has discovered more than 2,600 planets during its mission, many of which could be promising places for life. Kepler will be retired into a safe orbit away from Earth. After our Dawn spacecraft missed several communications sessions with our Deep Space Network, mission managers ended the historic mission, concluding that the spacecraft has finally run out of the fuel it uses to orient itself in space. Launched 11 years ago, it became the first mission to go into orbit around two destinations beyond Earth, visiting the two largest objects in the main asteroid belt, Vesta and Ceres, the dwarf planet it is currently orbiting. Dawn is expected to remain in orbit around Ceres for at least 20 years. Mission managers previewed the InSight mission to Mars during an October 31st briefing at NASA headquarters. The InSight lander is scheduled to touch down on the red planet on November 26th. Its suite of instruments will study Mars quakes and other activity deep below the Martian surface to help us better understand how all rocky planets formed, including Earth and its moon.
On Mars, the atmosphere is thick enough to burn you up on entry.
Our new 8-episode podcast, On a Mission, takes you with InSight on its mission to Mars. Episode 1 lays out the odds of actually reaching the surface safely. Fewer than half of Mars missions make it. The first 2 episodes are available online at nasa.gov/podcasts, the InSight website, SoundCloud, and Apple Podcasts. On October 31st, engineers at our Stennis Space Center in Mississippi conducted another hot fire test of an RS-25 engine controller for use on a future flight of our new Space Launch System or SLS rocket. SLS will use 4 RS-25s to launch astronauts in our Orion spacecraft to deep space destinations, including to the vicinity of the Moon and Mars. Urban air mobility was the focus of an industry day on November 1st in Seattle. Urban air mobility is defined as a safe and efficient system for passenger and cargo air transportation in and around an urban area. We are working with industry, academia, and the Federal Aviation Administration to test concepts and technologies necessary to help move this industry forward. Engineers recently tested a subscale model of our X-59 Quiet Supersonic Technology X-plane in a wind tunnel at our Langley Research Center in Virginia. The X-59 will demonstrate quiet supersonic technologies in straight and level flight over a large area. Data from this project could be the path for new commercial markets in supersonic flight in the United States and internationally. That's what's up this week at NASA. For more on these and other stories, follow us on the web at nasa.gov/twan. Science upcoming flight test, and a science chat about 2 upcoming out-of-this-world encounters. A few of the stories to tell you about this week at NASA. Signals from our Parker Solar Probe indicate the spacecraft is alive and well after skimming by the Sun at just 15 million miles from our star's surface. A status beacon sent on November 7th indicates all instruments are running and collecting science data. Parker will study the Sun's corona to solve long-standing mysteries and should help improve forecasts of space weather, which can affect spacecraft and astronauts in orbit, as well as communications on Earth. Our Kennedy Space Center in Florida received the European Service Module for our Orion spacecraft from Germany on November 6th. The service module will propel, power, and cool Orion during Exploration Mission 1, Orion's first uncrewed flight test with our Space Launch System rocket that will demonstrate our capability to extend human existence to the moon and beyond. NASA and the European Space Agency will participate in a November 16th event at Kennedy to mark the arrival of the service module. That event will air live on NASA television and the agency's website at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We teamed with the U.S. Navy and others for the 7th in a series of tests off the California coast to verify and validate procedures and hardware needed to recover Orion after it splashes down in the Pacific Ocean when it returns from deep space exploration missions. A test version of Orion was used to evaluate recovery operations in various conditions. There are 2 more recovery tests planned for this series. On November 5th, our administrator Jim Bridenstine gave keynote remarks at National Geographic Society headquarters in Washington, D.C. before a showing of the Project Mars competition's short films and National Geographic's Mars series. During his remarks, Bridenstine talked about our InSight mission scheduled to land on the Red Planet November 26th.
This InSight lander is critical to a future human exploration activity on the surface of Mars. What we're going to be able to do is create a 3D image of what's happening inside Mars and ultimately how that could jeopardize human astronauts in the future.
A November 7th Science Chat focused on upcoming encounters for 2 of our planetary missions, OSIRIS-REx and New Horizons. OSIRIS-REx, our first asteroid sample return mission, will arrive at asteroid Bennu on December 3rd and then deliver a sample from the asteroid to Earth in September 2023. On New Year's Day 2019, our New Horizons spacecraft will make the farthest space probe flyby in history when it encounters Kuiper Belt object Ultima Thule, which is approximately 4 billion miles from Earth. You can see the entire episode at go.nasa.gov/smallworldschat. These flight cable harnesses assembled at our Langley Research Center in Virginia will be used by the Mars Entry, Descent, and Landing Instrumentation 2, or MEDLEY 2, during our Mars 2020 mission's entry through the Red Planet's atmosphere. MEDLEY 2 will measure pressure, temperature, heat flux, and radiation on the capsule that encloses the Mars 2020 rover. For an interactive look at how the mission will land, check out go.nasa.gov/Mars2020 That's what's up this week at NASA. For more on these and other stories, follow us on the web at nasa.gov/twan.